Oh, guys, you are in for a juicy episode. We are talking about the energetics of expansion today. We're going to be talking about money, manifestation, all the things. I realize I haven't done an episode in a little bit about these topics, and I thought, well, this is the perfect time as I am about to step into, I feel like, what is probably the biggest expansion of your life, going from maiden to mother. And obviously, I'll be taking you guys on the journey with practicing discernment as well through my Instagram stories and all the things and on some podcast episodes. But we are leading up to my maternity leave. And I wanted to leave you guys with some really juicy episodes to listen to, but also a reminder to really utilize the podcast directory. If you have not already checked that out, go and check out the podcast directory because the UI, the user experience, is absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, there are over 400 episodes. I am not actually going to be releasing episodes whilst I'm away on maternity leave. I was just like, I do not have the time or the bandwidth to record 3 months worth of podcast episodes before I go away. So there actually won't be any podcasts coming out over my maternity leave, but I really want you to go back and re-listen to old episodes. Even if you think, oh, I've already listened to this one, listen to it again, because the second time you listen to something, you always get something different out of it, or you'll hear it differently because you're in a new phase of life, that kind of thing. So let's talk about all the different things in regards to money, expansion, the energetics of it, fear, all those good things. And I really hope this is an action-packed juicy podcast for you guys. Okay, let's firstly talk about what expansion really feels like in your body. Because sometimes people think that expansion and going into your next level is like ease. And it's just like, oh, you might feel some butterflies, but it just feels so like in alignment and go with the flow and whatnot. And I can tell you from so many years of experience of expanding, and not just in business, for example, but in my personal life and in, of course, in my professional life and in my relationship, like in so many different areas. It is so new, and anything new, your body does not like. Anything unfamiliar, anything that is uncomfortable, your nervous system actually wants you to not do it because what your nervous system does not deem as familiar, it deems as dangerous. So when we are expanding, it doesn't actually feel easy at all. It feels like a massive ego death. And one of you DM'd the other day saying, do you have an episode about like what happens when you have that ego death before you get your manifestation? And I'm like, yeah, there's a great episode. It's titled like When Life gives you lemons, and I have a black eye in it from when I had that horse riding accident. So we'll link that one below so you can listen to that. And that's really going to walk you through kind of navigating what I call like the gap, which is that gap between kind of your old self to your new self. But what I will say is that expansion feels horrible. Let's just say it feels so challenging. It brings up so much resistance. We'll talk about this a bit more in the book episode that we have coming up, where Hal and Olivia are planning to join as well and to talk about the behind the scenes of the book. And they can talk to this too. Hal can talk to this. I felt so much resistance. Didn't help the hormones, the pregnancy, all of that with launching the book. Not because I didn't want to launch the book. I was just like, I can't be fucked doing all the things that I actually did want to do. Now, of course, I'm glad that he didn't listen to me, but there were multiple times where I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore, blah, blah, blah. And I was fully aware. And so I would let myself have the meltdown. And I encourage you to allow yourself to really have the human experience. Because if you don't have the human experience and you shove it down, that's not going to help at all. Okay. It's actually going to create more resistance. So it's really important to have that human experience when you're going through the expansion, and at the same time as you're having that human, moment of the meltdown. This is what I'm talking about myself right now. When you have that human moment of the meltdown, you're also fully aware that the meltdown is because of the resistance that you're feeling. And deep down, it's like you want to launch the book, you want to do this, you want to invest in your business, you want to, whatever it is that you want to do. It just also is being met with so much discomfort. And so, what I do want to say also is that when we use the word expansion, it's not just like some woo woo word. Expansion isn't just like, yeah, it's kind of a buzzword, but I'm not saying expansion in the sense of a buzzword. When I'm saying expansion, I'm actually saying that it's your nervous system adjusting to this new frequency. Whether the new frequency is a healthy relationship, whether the new frequency is a new amount of money, whether it's visibility, whether it's a new level of intimacy, whether it's motherhood, you name it. But your nervous system is quite literally expanding to meet yourself in this new frequency, which is really, really hard. Okay, so when you feel your body opening and stretching and stepping into this new version of you, it actually will feel very vulnerable, very like, very shaky almost, like resistance, like I was saying before. It can even sometimes feel like you don't want to do it. And you're like, fully, I do not want to do this thing. I do not want to do this thing. Like your ego, but it's all coming from your ego. You can feel it. If you actually tune into your body, and maybe you can even do this right now as you're listening, you can feel the contraction coming from your head. It is not coming from your body. It is not coming from your heart, right? And so think about what it is that you're actually wanting to expand into. Don't think about like an actual task that feels scary. Think about the thing that you want to expand into. So if we were to use my book for example, I'm not thinking about like the effort required to launch the book. I'm thinking about the end result that I want from the book. Okay. So if you were to think about the end result that you want from whatever it is, whether it's like newfound freedom, maybe you're thinking about whether or not you come to the immersion, and the end result that you want is this like just overwhelming feeling of inner peace. Okay. When you think about that overwhelming feeling of inner peace, are you curling inward? No. Are you shrinking? Do you feel like your energy is shrinking and is contractive? No. When you think about that, you actually feel this expansive energy. You can feel that in your body. It's just the step that is required to get the result that you want. So, the step that's required to actually expand into this new version of yourself, that step feels contractive. That step has the resistance that comes up. That step feels really hard. So, know the difference between the two, because this is a very important difference for you to feel, because with every investment that I make in myself, whether it's a personal investment, whether it's a professional investment, whether it's an investment for even motherhood, my ego wants me to shrink. My ego is like, no. But my body is like, when I feel into it, is like, yes. So, as an example, Hal and I were talking about, and I'll talk about this more in an upcoming episode that I'm going to do for you guys before I go away on maternity leave, like how I'm setting myself up for success for motherhood. But Hal and I were talking the other night about night nurses. And I was noticing myself as we were talking about it, where, we've hired a postpartum doula, we've hired doulas, we actually have changed midwives halfway through, not because of anything bad with my initial midwife, but my original midwife that I wanted, that I really connected with early on in our pregnancy, she's British, and I just like, oh my God, when you live away from home and you get this sense of like familiarity in someone that, obviously I know that I don't have a British accent. I'm actually half British though, so I have, some of you might know this, I'm a British citizen as well. I've got a British passport. My dad's British, and a lot of my family is British on my dad's side, and we've just spent a lot of time in London and whatever. So when I hear British people, it does feel really calming to my nervous system. But actually, more importantly, the Commonwealth system for, like, let's just say birth is very similar. It's basically the same to Australia. So when I first met her, her accent, I was just like, oh my God, I want you as my midwife so badly. She wasn't available. So we then changed, so we paid double. We then changed midwives halfway through as well. So a lot of money is being spent on the birth. But of course, it's like the birth of our child. So you really can't put a price tag on that. And I'm not going to put a price tag on the level of support that I know that I deserve to have during this time of my life. But of course, my ego does. My ego wants to put a price tag on that shit. And so when Hal and I are talking about hiring a night nurse, and before you jump to like any conclusions, one, I don't want to fucking hear any unsolicited advice because I don't care about it. But number two, you can listen to episodes if you actually want, like you can listen to the upcoming episode if you actually want to know kind of like a little bit about what we are doing. And I think I answered this in the pregnancy Q&A about like some of the things too. But anyway, and so when we talk about night nurses, of course my ego is like, oh, should we really spend that extra money? Is it really worth it? Blah, blah, blah. But my body is like, yeah, bitch. My body is like, absolutely. Absolutely, I want that extra support. Absolutely, I will take the help during the night in somebody else being able to change his diaper. So as soon as I've fed him, I can go back to sleep and I have somebody else there that I can trust, that can soothe him or that can, change the dirty diaper or whatever it is, and I can just go back to sleep. And so, even in little moments, you might notice it could be like, it literally could be a $20 purchase, but you could start to notice for yourself the feeling in your body where your ego wants you to contract, but your body is like, your heart knows what it is that you deserve. And part of that contraction, even from your ego, might actually be what you might notice is contraction. So I notice it now as contraction of my ego in terms of just like those ego-based thoughts, right? A lot of people will notice the contraction from their head as also some of their money trauma and their wounds and their low self-worth, which will then influence the money that you spend on yourself and that kind of stuff. And I want to share with you guys, just so that, just in case anybody thinks, well, Monica, it's so easy for you because you make a lot of money and you have like blah, blah, blah in your life and whatever, whatever. I want to explain to you guys ways that I would tap into abundance before I had abundance when I looked at my bank account. Because let's just also remember, I know this is kind of easier than done. Abundance is not just about the amount of money that you have in your bank account, because you could have $1 million cash in your bank account. Don't recommend that. You need to organize it. But you could have $1 million, like to your name to easily be able to get out in cash, but you could not feel abundant in your life. Because abundance is not just achieved through, sorry, I was looking at neighbor. Abundance is not just achieved through the cash and the amount of money that you make. Abundance is also you sitting outside enjoying a cup of tea and hearing the birds. Abundance is your vegetable garden growing. Abundance is the dinner that, you're laughing with your friends for hours. That's abundance. Abundance is the feeling of getting into the ocean on a hot summer's day, or the feeling of drinking like a fresh, now I really want a cold glass of water, a cold glass of water like that is abundance. Abundance is sleeping in on a Saturday morning. Abundance is this feeling of just like overflowingness in your life. And so there is so many other ways that you can tap into that overflow, which will then mirror the overflow in your bank account. And there are actionable things that you can do where you can be living a life that embodies and that kind of like you feel wealthier in before you necessarily have wealth in the form of cash. So as an example, one of the things that I would do in when I was living in Sydney, this was a long time ago, before my business took off, was not making very much money. In fact, I would actually, some of you would have read this in my book. I think I put it in my book. I actually would not buy breakfast food when I would go to the supermarket because it was cheaper to not eat one meal a day. Very fucked up. So like how I thought I was being good with money was hoarding, was scarcity, was literally not eating, because then I would have more in my bank account, as though more in my bank account meant I was more abundant, yet I was absolutely not more abundant. So anyway, when I started changing how I was engaging with money, one of the things that I would do was if I had a big chunk of time where I could do a bunch of admin on certain days and I wasn't taking clients, instead of just sitting at home and doing that admin, I would go to Bondi, where there was Orchard Street. Apparently now it's closed down, very tragic. There was Orchard Street, and Orchard Street, basically, for anyone that's not Australian, it's just like this elixir bar, and you choose like a cacao or a turmeric or whatever, and like cashew milk. It's very like, oh my God, it's just the best. And you would then choose the mushrooms that you want in it, and you'd be basically be getting this like healthy latte essentially with these different like adaptogens, mushroom, collagen, all the things. And it was just, the vibe was immaculate. So I would go there and I would pay the $13 for this little latte, and I would sit there for hours, sometimes get a second one, and I would sit there and I would do work. And here's the thing, I wasn't just doing work, I was doing the highest quality of work. I was getting so much work done. I was being so productive because my energy and my frequency was in the energy and frequency of confidence and worthiness and abundance and luxury and wealth. And I'm telling you, what comes through you and how your life changes when you're in that frequency is huge. Another example, I would really often go and sit in fancy hotel lobbies that I, couldn't afford to stay at, quote unquote. Like couldn't, get a room at that time, but I would sit there again for hours and I would work and I would drink tea. And maybe you're not sitting there and working, maybe you're sitting there and reading a book or you're journaling or something like that, but you are tapping into this energy that is actually all around you. Sometimes we just need to change our environment to really tap into this energy of massive expansion. If you are craving more softness, magnetism, and ease in your life, but your body still feels like it is stuck in control, tension, or emotional burnout, you need to be inside Muse. It is a new masterclass that we are doing that I am so excited for. And this is not just another mindset training. Muse is a full body activation that shows you how to unlock your feminine energy, heal trauma at the root, and shift your nervous system into full receivership. So inside this masterclass, I'm going to be breaking down why trauma is the number one thing blocking your magnetism and how to finally clear it, the 4 flavors of the feminine and how to embody your unique essence, how to rewire your nervous system so that receiving love, money, and success feels safe, the polarity shifts that make your man step up, lead, and cherish you, how feminine surrender makes you more powerful, not less powerful, and why your manifestations aren't landing. And a little hint, it is not about your vision board, it is in your body. So Muse is where you are going to be able to stop chasing, forcing, and proving, and really start becoming the woman that attracts everything with ease. It is free. It is going to be potent as fuck. So make sure that you are registered. You can save your seat by registering with the link below. And trust me when I say this is the shift your feminine energy has been waiting for. So I will see you there. And this is why for some of you, you'll even find that when you come to like an in-person event, whether it's a Her Year in-person event, whether it's like, another kind of community event that I've thrown, or whether you've come to the immersion or you're going to come to the immersion, you would think, oh, I'm going to be so exhausted by the end of the day, blah, blah, blah. But you might find yourself just like bursting with these creative ideas, even after a really, really long day. You might find that you feel so electric and abundant and magnetic and radiant after like these really intense days and these really like giving days, like so much energy is coming out of you. But the reason why you feel that way is because you are tapping into the energy of abundance, and not just abundance in money, abundance in love and friendship and connection and all of that. And that then translates to abundance in money, right? I think sometimes people think, oh, the way to make more money, the way to have more abundance is to do a money program. Yes, that can help. However, and we're going to get into this, if you have a pile of money trauma, if your nervous system is not able to actually receive, that ain't going to help. You need to fix the root problem of the money, which could be your relationship with men. It could be low self-worth. It could be confidence issues. And I say this because so many women will come to the immersion. They'll do Queen Alchemy. They'll work on something unrelated to money, basically. And all this money starts flowing in, because now they're able to access, feel, and receive the energy of abundance, and they're able to feel safer as they expand because they now know how to hold themselves in safety. So I just mentioned maybe your relationship with men. Your relationship with money mirrors your relationship with men. If you do not trust money to stay, to hold you, to support you, there's a good chance that you don't trust men to do that either, and vice versa. Money, I mean, you are the one that adds the meaning to money, right? But we can look at money like, because it provides so much of this safety and security and like support for our nervous system, because we live in an economy, right? So the reality is that we do not feel safer without money. We actually feel safer with money, because then we can keep the roof over our head, we can feed ourselves, etc. So money is actually masculine coded energy. It rewards feminine receivership, not control. So if you are gripping and hoarding and micromanaging, or feeling like I have to earn it to feel worthy, that's not attracting in and being in this feminine receivership that money then responds to. That's like a nervous system loop that's probably playing out in your love life. So think about, oh, actually, the way that I can attract more money in is being more in my feminine. Because just like we attract the masculine in by being in this like muse energy, and if you didn't watch the masterclass Muse, you're going to want to get on that ASAP, because we're about to make it a paid masterclass, FYI. But if you are in this muse energy, you will find it easier to then attract in money, just like it's easier to attract in a masculine man. Okay, so if you do not know how to receive from men, you will also, or if you, not even just if you don't know how, if you don't feel safe to receive from men, if you are always needing to be in control, if your nervous system pushes away the idea that it is safe to surrender to a man, you are going to see the exact same thing in your relationship with money, and like your own internal money blueprint. So let's talk about the money blueprint and money trauma really quick. I've done some episodes on this, but I often do get questions about money trauma, because there's a lot out there on money mindset, which is fabulous. We love some money mindset work, but you guys know mindset is 20%. 80% of your signals are sent from your body to your brain. 20% of signals are sent from your brain down to your body. So if you are just doing mindset work for your relationship with money, fabulous. But you also need to consider the trauma that you have around money, or the trauma that then influences your relationship with money. So money trauma can look like overspending, control, hoarding. So like what I would do basically. So like intense scarcity, where it's just like save, 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 save. This is really important to understand in regards to like what I said about overspending with money. Not all scarcity shows up as struggle. Not all money trauma shows up as I can't attract it in. Sometimes money trauma actually shows up in I'm always spending money. I can't hold money. It is so easy for me to spend money. Like, you get paid, the money comes in, and then you're just like shop, 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 and you wonder where it all goes, or you're paying all these bills and you're wondering where all your money goes. Like, no matter how many pay rises you get, you still have the same left in your bank account at the end of every week. Sometimes money trauma can show up as overachieving, needing constant control, never letting yourself actually receive without guilt. Hello, women. That is money trauma too. So if you grew up with, a volatile situation around money, maybe there was a lot of fights, maybe there was a lot of loss, maybe there's a lot of shame around money, then even making more money can feel unsafe in your body. You might cognitively go, yeah, I want to make more money. Like, who the fuck doesn't? Who doesn't want to make more money, right? Who doesn't want to manifest more of their dream life? But your body deep down might actually be like, no, I don't want that. Because you think the more money that you make, the more fights will be had in your relationship. Or you think if I make a lot of money, I'll lose it. Or if I make a lot of money, people are going to judge me. So you'll then sabotage those manifestations, attracting in more money, that kind of stuff, not because you're broken, but because your body and your nervous system still believes that money equals insert negative thing. So let me ask you guys some questions, and I want to give you a second after each of these to just feel and think about what don't think, about what comes up in your body when I ask this. Okay. When you think about money, what comes up in your body? Just think about money, what comes up in your body? Okay. If you need to pause it, you can pause it. When you think about the amount of money that you want to see in your bank account, what comes up? Okay, so your body is likely coded with a survival blueprint around money. Either it's unsafe to hold, to have, etc., or I need to save, 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 save in order to be safe. Holding money, I was mentioning this in a recent podcast, I can't remember which one. Holding money is a really big wound that a lot of people don't recognize because they think, oh, well, I have no problem spending, so I don't have a money block. But that's not true, right? You actually need to work on holding money and feeling safe to hold money because that's what's going to allow you to actually then have more money in your bank account. That's what's going to allow you to then build your dream house. If you keep spending it and keep letting it fling out, you're not allowing yourself to hold money, right? And there's probably other things in your life that you don't feel safe holding because you're worried that if you hold money, what's going to happen? Okay. So let's circle back. I've kind of gone on this beautiful money tangent for you all. So let me circle back to talking about like expansion and kind of the energy of that. I've gone into some of that money stuff for you guys. Some things to really think about from today. So let's talk about the expansion again, because as you are wanting to attract in more money or manifest your dream life, when you are rising, when you are expanding, you're going to become you need to become friends with fear, because fear is not bad. People can sometimes think that if they feel fear around making an investment, going on a certain trip, booking that fancy hotel for themselves, whatever it is that they're wanting to manifest in, they can think, getting the new job, they can think because they're afraid that's like a red light. They shouldn't do it. No. Remember what I said earlier on. Remember what I've taught you guys in so many episodes, right? Fear, when your body is afraid, of course it's afraid because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. And anything outside of your comfort zone is dangerous according to your nervous system. But we know it's not actually dangerous. There's a really good episode that I've done recently about trauma and how it affects your comfort zones and whatnot. We'll link that one below. Highly, highly, highly recommend listening to that episode if you haven't already, or listen to it again. So think about it like this, actually, in fact. If your body is buzzing with fear when you go to invest in something or say yes to something that stretches you, that's actually usually a green light, because you're stepping into unfamiliar territory. You're breaking your identity patterns. That's going to feel edgy. It's meant to feel edgy. If you've only ever paid $100 for a top, and now you're thinking about spending $400 for a top, and you're feeling scared and this fear come up, it's not about the top. It's about the new reality that you're creating. Because once upon a time, $100 for a top would feel really, really, really expensive. That then you go and spend $400 for a top. Now $400 is your standard. The $100 now feels cheap. Now for spending $400 is easy, but the first time you have to spend $400, that's scary. Because the fear is literally your comfort zone expanding and stretching in real time. Let's bring this back to birth really quick, because obviously it's on my mind. It's like the first time you give birth and it is completely unknown, you're going to probably have more nerves. Like, this is for the average person, you're going to have more nerves. You've never done it before. But then after, and it could feel really like intense in it, obviously, because you are expanding, okay, physically and energetically and mentally and emotionally and all of it. And then once you have your baby and now birth is in the past, like you've birthed that baby and that placenta and that's in the past, now doesn't feel so scary. Because what you've done is you've stretched that fear, that stretching. In the moment, it's hard. Afterwards, you're like, you got through it, right? So of course, that's why people have multiple kids, because looking back, it always seems easier than in it. So you have to remember that when you're in the thick of it, that's when it feels hard. But how badly do you want the results? How badly do you want what is on the other side? That is what you have to focus on. Do not focus on the resistance and the tension and the struggles and your ego and all the internal chatter when you're in the stretching of your comfort zone or when you're about to stretch in your comfort zone. Don't focus on that. Focus on what is on the other side of your comfort zone. And this is really important because you are always communicating with the universe, ladies and gentlemen, always. Your actions and your inactions are always saying something to the universe. So every hesitation, every action, every, oh, not now, it's not the right time, blah, 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 that is a message to the universe. When you aren't taking that leap that is stretching you in whatever facet of life that's in, when you aren't stretching yourself, the universe, like, and you want to, that's more important, because you're allowed to also just go through seasons where it's like, can I fucking chill for a sec and not be stretching? You're allowed to do that. But I'm saying that when you know there is something that you want to do for yourself or a step that you want to take and you don't do it, but you want to, the universe reads that as, I'm not a priority, I don't believe in myself, I'm not ready. How do you think that then shows up in your energy and then what you attract in and what you don't attract in, right? Because we are manifesting from our bodies. We're not manifesting from our minds. Your mind might say, oh, I want this thing, I want this thing. But if your body is, if you are giving out this energy and your body is like, I don't believe in myself, I'm not ready, I'm not a priority, I don't deserve this, what do you think you're going to attract in? When you say yes, even when it's hard, even when it is so scary, even when it stretches you, the universe then mirrors that back. Remember what I said just before. Fear is not a red light. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, fear is actually a green light because it is telling you you are about to expand. Fear is different from your intuition. If your intuition was like, no, that's not fear. That's your intuition. But you wouldn't, if your intuition didn't want you to do something because like it wasn't the right step for you or something bad was going to happen if you did it, if you did do it, your intuition wouldn't even be screaming. You wouldn't have this internal battle in you. You'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. That's how your intuition would feel. Your intuition doesn't feel emotional like fear does. Just quick little nugget on the difference between intuition and fear. Intuition, just so you know, feels unemotional in your body. There is no emotional response. There's no activation through your body, even if you think there would be. Like even if your intuition is like, yes, he's the man you're going to marry, he's the father of your children, it will be so neutral, so nonchalant, no like emotional response with it. And you might think there should be for something like that, right? You're like, oh my God. No, not with your intuition. The oh my God, the emotion, whether it's fear emotion, whether it's like, oh my God, that is not your intuition. That's your ego. And so fear and intuition feel very, very, very different when it comes to making an investment, expanding, all that kind of stuff. So do not worry about getting the two mixed up because you won't get the two mixed up. Some of you I know have even had the experience where your intuition was telling you, because you've messaged me this, my intuition told me not to work with, this person about blah, 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 but I didn't listen because it was so just like, don't do it. And I thought that it would be this like big emotional blah, blah, blah. So I didn't listen to that. Now, obviously in hindsight, that helped them to learn their intuition. And look, I could do a whole other episode on this for intuition stuff, but it took me a long time to learn what my intuition actually really sounded like and to be able to fully trust it. So there was plenty of times where I didn't do what my intuition wanted me to do and I learned the hard way, but it also then taught me over time, oh, that is what my intuition sounds like. Sometimes we have to learn through those experiences. And so then you obviously have less and less of them as you go on. And I want to quickly say this. I nearly forgot to say this, and I was just racking my brain of what it was, but it came back. Very often, the thing that is holding you back from expansion is the very reason why you need to do it. So, for example, often what will hold people back from expanding, investing in themselves, doing anything, right? Going out on the date, moving countries, whatever, is unworthiness in some way, shape, or form. However, when we don't do the thing that we want to do, what do we actually continue to tell ourselves? I am unworthy. Then we get frustrated because we didn't do the thing that we wanted to do, which makes us feel even more like a failure, not enough, dumb, whatever else we tell ourselves. But when you feel this feeling of like, I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough or whatever it is, or I don't deserve this or I shouldn't or I'm a bad mom if I take 3 days to myself, whatever it is, those things are the very reason why you need to take this leap. Because what it does is it completely changes the chemistry in your body and actually makes your nervous system realize, oh, that's bullshit. It's like the fastest way to like break out of a belief that has kept you in a pattern and a cycle for such a long period of time. So just remember that. Often the very reason, the very excuse, I should say, often the very excuse that you are giving yourself as to why you can't do something is the exact reason why you need to do it. Let me say this. When it comes to, messages to the universe, right? So often we will say to ourselves, oh, I don't have the time, or I don't have this, or it's too expensive, or I can't afford it, or whatever it is. Would you buy a new iPhone if you flushed yours down the toilet? Or if it fell out of your pocket down the toilet? Yes. Would you even hesitate? No. Would you pay for a therapist if your child was like, I'm really struggling with X, Y, and Z? Yeah, in a heartbeat, right? But when it's your own emotional healing, when it's your own expansion, when it's your own desires, you hesitate. My question for you is why? What is the reason that you are less worthy than your child? What is the reason why your iPhone is more important than your internal peace and the health of your relationship? Let's say, for example. When you put it like that, right, it kind of makes you realize the bullshit that we tell ourselves. Because we do tell ourselves a lot of bullshit as to why it's not the right time, blah, blah, blah. But all of those excuses, they are fear hidden behind excuses. That's all it is. Okay? So if you haven't already got your ticket to the immersion, if we have some left, when you get your ticket, I am telling you, things will start falling in your lap before you've even come to the event in November. Because when you join and you pay for your ticket, it sends a message to the universe of I'm done playing small, I'm ready to be seen, I'm deserving of X, Y, and Z. You start to show up in a different energy because of what has been blown out of the water by you clicking pay, and how that shifts the way that you are showing up and actually living your life. And so on that note, let's quickly talk about some embodiment stuff. I know this is going to be a longer episode, but we're just going to keep rolling with it because you guys have lots of time to listen to it because I'm going to be gone for quite a few months soon. So embodiment. Embodiment is the second part of my HER framework, right? Healing, embodiment, radiance. The embodiment is really, really, really important to be doing after the healing. And embodiment is not reading books. Reading is great. Consuming free content is great. But let's be very clear on this. Embodiment does not just happen in your mind. You don't, shadow work yourself out of a trauma loop from a book. You need someone who can see what you can't, who can hold you, who can guide you, who can mirror you, who can push you. You do not fix a trauma response, whether it's with money, men, manifestation, receivership, safety, whatever it is. You do not fix a trauma response because you read about it. You fix it when you actually face it in your body. You fix it when you feel it. This is why I'm so big. And this goes for what I call embodied manifestation, right? If you want your manifestation practices for the rest of your life to be mental, go have at it. Amazing, fabulous. But we do a lot of this in her year because a lot of women kind of get to a point where it's like, okay, I've been doing these fucking manifestation practices for years. I can't, like, I don't have time to keep doing these like lengthy fucking journaling practices every morning, to be doing XYZ of an evening, to be listening to ABC. Like, you get to a point where you're just like, I fucking can't, right? And that's where embodied manifestation comes in, where you don't have to do anything to be manifesting. Your embodiment is the manifestation. You living is manifesting. You breathing is manifesting. You think of something, boom, it comes in. You've probably heard me say this before. Your words become your spells. You literally can just be in the car and you're like, universe, I really want XYZ, and then it just comes in. That happens, embodied manifestation happens once you have done that healing work, because now your system is so in alignment where you are not blocking your manifestations. You are now able to feel the frequency of deservingness, of abundance, of worthiness, of, receivership, of attraction, of surrender, all of it. You're able to actually feel that in your body, and we manifest from our nervous system. We do not manifest just by writing down affirmations. Do they help our nervous system? Yes. But if you want to feel like, oh, I cannot write a single affirmation down in my journal for a month and still manifest, that will come when there is nothing in your body blocking you. That's why I'm so big, and that's why I just love in person. I'm obviously so big on all the somatic work, but the in person is another level, because the depth that we go to in the room, because like every woman is kind of, we're all feeding off each other's energy, and you go to a depth in person that you just cannot go to online. Let's be real. Like the screen, like it doesn't matter how deep you go. Every woman that comes to the immersion, they will say to me, that has done Queen Alchemy before, they will say, I thought I went so deep in Queen Alchemy. I thought the anger that I released, the rage that I released in Queen Alchemy, I thought that was like, oh my God, I thought I was psychotic. But what happened in these 3 days, another level. Because sometimes you need a safe space with the permission of other women's voices too, to really, really go there. And you need to be like seen. You need to be cracked, right? Where it's like you literally can't hold back. It's physically impossible to hold back, right? So for those of you coming to these 3 days in November or to a future one, we are not talking about trauma. In fact, when you get your ticket, you actually get pre-work to do, because I'm not explaining to you trauma. You need to know that before you come. We are going deep into the release. So it's important that you've done that pre-work before you come, okay? Because I want those 3 days to be I want those 3 days to really condense time, and for us to just work on the release and the embodiment practices versus just learning, because you can learn via online, right? Okay, so let me call out some of the ways that you guys could, I'm going to trigger you probably, that you could be holding yourself back with your expansion in any area of life. Okay, so think about what I'm going to say in multiple areas of life. If you are only ever investing just enough, it could be investing money, it could be investing in like your relationship. So you're only ever in, and when I say investing, I don't mean via money. I'm saying investing in terms of like energy, vulnerability, that kind of thing. If you're only ever in just enough, you're going to keep receiving just enough. If you only buy when there is a discount, you'll keep attracting situations where people only want you when there's a discount. And that could be in business, but it also could be that's where you become a doormat, right? People want to hang out with you when you're people pleasing. When you do what suits them, you're discounting yourself, but they don't want to hang out with you when you are at your full price. Money mirrors what you believe about yourself. So however you are engaging with your relationship with money, or what it is that you're manifesting, so it can be love as well, or your business, like how are you showing up in life? That is going to be reflected back to you in money. Don't see money as this like separate thing. Money is just energy, guys. It's just energy. So if your energy that you're putting out is I don't deserve XYZ, the energy that you're putting out is I don't deserve. So is all this abundance going to be flying your way? No, because you're like, I don't deserve that. You're repelling that. So what energy are you putting out? And this doesn't mean, really important. You guys know I'm big on this, but this does not mean you have to be high fucking vibe all the time. That's actually a really big component of my teachings around what I call embodied manifestation, is that you can be having a full shit day. You could be a moody bitch and still manifest in wild things. It happens to me all the time. So I kind of love what happens because it really affirms like this shit works, right? So just think about like not just what is the vibe that you're in today, but actually from a nervous system level, from like an unconscious level in your body, from the blueprint that you have around money and how you've been programmed to feel about money, not just think about money, but feel about money and feel about creating your dream life. How is that going to affect what you're actually attracting in? Okay. It's kind of the same thing where people are like, oh, I really want, this like emotionally available man, blah, blah, blah. But they are actually emotionally available to themselves, right? Or they say, I want this like high quality man, but they keep tolerating. So the embodiment is completely off. They keep tolerating flaky, low effort behavior. Or maybe you say, you really want more clients, but you keep showing up in low integrity energy, for example, or you're really disorganized with your calendar. So it's like energetically, you actually can't take more clients because you are so disorganized that you don't have the space energetically for any more clients. Your energetic minimum is what you tolerate. So really think about what are the things that I'm saying I want, but am I actually then embodying that and living it out in my life or not? I feel like this whole fucking masterclass, there you go. I feel like this whole podcast is actually a masterclass. I'm saying this and I'm like, this literally could be the amount of like actionable things I'm giving you guys. I'm like, this should just be a masterclass. So maybe we need to actually title this like a masterclass on expanding. So what was I saying? So yeah, your energetic minimum is what you tolerate. So really be not, I don't want you to like start to become like paranoid about your behavior. Like I'm not about that at all. My philosophy is very much like you need to just live your human experience. But can you be a little bit more aware and just start to actually notice, where am I not in integrity with myself? Where I'm saying I want this, but I'm accepting this, or I'm showing up in this kind of way. Like check in with not just your energy, but also your actions. But also with energy, actually, notice where like you're canceling yourself out. So you might be wanting to be wealthy, but you're acting in really cheap behavior. Now, I do want you to also, I don't want you to think, oh, the only way to be wealthy is that I have to spend a lot of money. That's not true, because you can actually be broke and incredibly generous and incredibly abundant with like how you shop in the world. You can be extremely rich. Plenty of people like this. People can be very, very rich, but they're actually really, really, really cheap. It's not about money. It's about your energy. But notice where you're canceling yourself out, where you're saying, oh, I really want to be wealthy. I really want to attract in this money. But then you are showing up in scarcity energy. Are you in the energy of receiving? Are you in the frequency? Because that frequency of receiving, that energy is then how you will receive more abundance and more of the manifestations that you want to call in. But if you're still trying to like self-source everything from control, well then what the fuck do you expect is going to happen? You cannot, like, if you think that you're the only one that is making these manifestations happen or call in this money, I mean, you wouldn't be listening to this episode. Like, you would not be listening to this episode, because all of you listening to this episode, you're wanting to attract in more with more ease. Then you need to stop trying to source everything that you want from a place of control, right? When people say, for example, let me give you an example, I can't afford it, it's actually usually code for I don't prioritize it. That might have stung for some of you. Apologies in advance if it did. Or not in advance. Apologies if it did. So when we say to ourselves, like, let me give you another example. If you've got, what would be another example? Okay, if you are going out and spending a stupid amount of money on, like, let's just say Uber Eats, right? And all this takeout food, you've got money for your healing. It's about values and actually getting resourceful. It's not about dollars. Okay. So notice where in your life you are actually contradicting yourself when it comes to what you're wanting to get in your life and then how you're actually living it. And notice if you are still trying to manifest everything in from control. Okay. The last thing that I want to leave you guys with is just like a sexy activation reminder to take the fucking leap. Like, stop waiting for the perfect moment because it's never going to come. I'm telling you that. It will never come. I mean, I spent 6 years on my book. Was it the perfect moment to be launching at 7 months pregnant or 6.5, whatever I was? Absolutely fucking not. I would say it was actually probably one of the worst times to be doing it, right? But what I've noticed, this is a really good nugget actually. I've talked about this before. What I've noticed in my life with all of the things I've thrown myself into, I mean, my God, my human design 3-5 just really, really is about like putting myself through all the hurdles to teach it to you guys. Anyway, what I have noticed from all the like quantum leaps and ego deaths and expansions that I've gone through is 99% of the time for me, they happen at the worst time. Because of course, otherwise it wouldn't be expansive. Think about it. If your expansions were happening at the perfect time, would they feel so expansive? No. Would it feel so hard? No. Would there be so much of a quantum leap? No. Would there be so much of an ego death? No. Would there be as many meltdowns? No. You might think you want that, but then it's not as expansive. So you might actually be like, I want to come to the immersion so badly, but literally that is the worst weekend possible because my husband is out of town and there is like, I don't know, a school camp going on, blah, blah, blah. Of course, it's the worst time. And it will also be the most expansive time. We've spoken about this like a bajillion times today. When we're having these quantum leaps and expansions, there is a challenge that we have to go through, of course, right? Expansion is not love and light, okay? So remember, there would be no really hard challenge for us to move through that would then quantum leap us if things were coming at the most convenient time. You will then not grow like you're wanting to grow. You have to be challenged because if it came at the right time, it wouldn't be a quantum leap. It wouldn't expand you in the same way. So instead of thinking, oh, it's not the right time, or why now? What if it's the perfect time? Because the messiest, most chaotic moments that hold a lot of resistance sometimes can often be the keys to our biggest breakthroughs. Remember, before there is a breakthrough, there is always a breakdown. And, launching the book as an example was like, oh my God, worst time. And then I realized, wait, it's actually the fucking best time. Like, I am literally the walking embodiment of what I'm talking about in the book. I am literally embodying and practicing getting all of the support to launch this book, right? Being 7 months pregnant. It actually was like it was the worst time, but it was the best time. Right? So please, please, please remember that. So ladies and gentlemen, we cannot expect to expand from a place of perfection. You expand when you meet yourself. I wish you could have seen my meltdown today. Because after I had my this wasn't even a meltdown. This was like blackout rage, actually, just pregnancy hormones. The Whole Foods shopping bags got really abused. But all that to say, I honestly wish someone filmed it because it was like, wow. But after I had that blackout rage, just like moment, when I walked back upstairs to fix my makeup before I had to go to my midwife appointment, I actually had this like realization. I was like, I think that actually was just like this huge shedding as I'm going through this portal, right? From maiden to mother. And that shit, why would it look perfect? Why? I honestly, I was saying to my midwives, I was like, I think trimester 3, and because they were talking about the hormones, and they're like, oh yeah, this is like very common, like not to worry about it. And I spoke to some of my friends, I messaged them, and they were like, oh honey, there was some stupid things I did in trimester 3. Anyway, but I'm like, this is part of the initiation, right? This is part of the portal. We cannot, like, how in the world could we expect ourselves to expand into the next level version of ourselves from this place of like organized, pristine perfection? No, you expand, ladies and gentlemen, this goes for you men as well. You expand when you are willing to meet yourself in the absolute darkness and mess and rage and just like psychosis and say, let's fucking do this thing. When you can meet yourself in that really raw humanness where you honestly feel kind of batshit crazy, and you like allow yourself to feel that whilst also knowing all the things we've spoken about today, like that is the power. Oh, I just want to say I fucking love just like the fire and the rawness and the primal stuff that we do and the rage and all of it. Like, I know it sounds like kind of maybe crazy, but honestly, that's the best bit of the immersion. The best bit of the immersion, in my opinion, is the wildness that is unleashed in the room. And the reason why is because every single woman meets themselves at a depth and a love and a vulnerability and just like a, oh my God, I can't, it's literally, it leaves me speechless every fucking time, but they meet themselves in a way they have never met themselves because of the permission that is given for them to just like crack themselves open and to let go. Ugh, all right, let's wrap this up. If you guys haven't gotten your tickets to the immersion, highly recommend that you do so. Wow, this was a 1 hour episode. Just look at the time. This is a 1 hour episode where I've just been talking the whole time. I hope that you guys really, really, really enjoyed it, especially because I tried to jam a lot in so I give you some really jam-packed episodes before I go. Please, as usual, post the episode on your stories and tag me, Monica Yates Health. Remember, we're not using the Feminine as Fuck Instagram anymore. Tag me so I can say thank you, so I can re-tag you as well. And do not forget to also leave a review on the podcast if you haven't already, because it really does help other people to find the podcast as well. Reviews do a lot. Same with leaving a review of the book, which is behind me. If you haven't already left a review of the book or the audio book, however you listened to it, please also do that. It takes 2 minutes and it really, really, really helps the ranking of the book, the podcast, all the things. Okay, bye everyone.